Welcome everyone to Pray It Off. Tonight is Thursday. We're always meeting every week. We're vigilant about coming to the meetings because we understand that life is stressful. And over our years, we've learned conditioned responses to that stress. And one of the conditioned response is food. Another one is to have a couple of drinks. So what do we do about it? Let's talk about it first of all. How much does our body need? How much of what we eat is physiological versus how much is psychological? What I think is if you say to yourself, I am going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you will already attack some of that psychological eating. Because if you're only having 3 meals a day, you're not eating the donut at work or the ice cream at Peter's Polar Parlor or Carol's. Because you say, I can only have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How can I mindlessly eat when I've told myself already that I can only have 3 meals? We want to change the way we feel about something. We're tired, we're angry, we had a bad day, we had a bad week. And we want a temporary fix to that problem. Yes, I will tell you that 12 Michelob Ultras is a temporary fix. And you feel pretty good. Wow, what problem? I'm not under any stress. The next day, when you wake up with a headache and you're reaching for the aspirin, you think, I still have that problem. I still have that stress. And now I have to weigh in. Now I've realized I'm turning to food and alcohol instead of God. We've created a pattern. A pattern. How many, you don't have to raise your hand if you still smoke, but if you used to smoke, there were patterns. All right? You have a cup of coffee, you have a cigarette. You get on the phone, you have a cigarette. You had patterns. You develop them over time. So how do you change this? You change it over time. Because if food is love and comfort, then you're going to choose food every time. Every time, because that is what it is. I'm having a problem, I need food. We need to change our food and problem connection. And you know what? Stress isn't necessarily bad. We think stress is sometimes bad, but sometimes it's what we need to get us off our butts. It's like we were talking about pain. If we didn't have a pain in our arm, we might not know that it's broken. So if something's stressful, maybe there's a problem with a relationship, maybe there's a problem with communication, maybe, like when I shared with you about my sister's seizure, what could I have done about that situation? Nothing. I was truly powerless. Now, I didn't freak out. I said, help. I said, I had tears, but I wasn't hysterical. I was comforting her. I didn't internalize it where I had the racing heart and I thought I was going to like pass out, which I don't know if any of you know that feeling of stress where you're like, I didn't do that. I was trying to say, Jesus, I trust in you. Sometimes there's things that need adjusting in our lives, though. I couldn't do anything about that situation. But let's say there's someone at work that you feel a great deal of stress. And you feel like they're talking behind your back or giving you a hard time. Then you say, do you mind if we have a few minutes to chat? You know, I'm sensing that there's some sort of animosity behind us. Can we clear it between us? Can we clear the air? What's wrong with open communication? Or, like tonight, for example, Bob forgot the keys to the church. Now, I knew that I was going to do a meeting on stress. I was up in the car for 23 minutes while he was frantically trying to find someone to open the church. Now, in my mind, I was thinking, I have to remember everything. I have to remember the logs. I've got to remember everything. All he has to remember is one thing, the keys. And then I started doing that. I started doing it, and then I reeled myself in. Reel. And then remember I talked about stepping aside, viewing the situation. That's what I did, because I'm doing the whole meeting on stress. So I have a few extra skills. So I stepped aside and I said, you know, is it the worst possible thing that could happen? And then I answered myself, not really. Have worse things happened in your life? Well, absolutely. Can you do anything about it? Well, no. Don't you have a brand new book in your purse that you haven't had 1 second to look at? Wouldn't you want to see what it's about? I pulled it out. I started reading my book. And then, of course, I was like a little quiet to Bob, because you got to give him some guilt. You got to. But I didn't say, I can't believe you forgot the keys, I got to remember everything. I didn't say that. I reeled myself in because it's not the worst thing. So many times in my life, I've made such a drama about things which really weren't that important. When it is important, then you need to differentiate it. You know, when we have this psychological thing about food, when we say to ourselves, there are people in the group who are still struggling with the habit of, I'm tired, I'm ordering a pizza. I'm under stress, I'm having ice cream, or I need my cookies. You have to look at your life, what's going on, and I've said this to many people, what do you want? Why are you here? What are your goals? Because food's going to win out every single time, every time. Unless you say, you know what, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. And you know what? Are you going to zig? Are you going to zag? But you have to not do it more than you're doing it. Food is a drug. Just like crack cocaine, just like alcohol, just like cigarettes. It's a drug. We eat sometimes mindlessly. We're not even enjoying food. We're not even enjoying we're distracting ourselves from the problem at hand, where we really need to have skills that teach us, as I'm trying to turn the page, to accept our lives the way it is. Now let me say that again. We need to accept our lives the way it is. That's sometimes the hardest thing to do. I've actually imagined myself going back in time to when I was sitting with my financial planner and I say these words, could you convert that money to cash? Because I know the market's going to crash and I'm going to lose it all anyway. So could you convert it to cash? I've said that in my mind. I can't do that. I lost it. It's over. It's done. Why do I keep belaboring it? Or I go back in time and say, I want to get a job with a place that has a pension and benefits so I can retire instead of work forever. I can't do that. I have to accept my life the way it is. And you know what? My life is pretty good. It's pretty good. We need to manage these triggers, and they give you tips. Like, I'm just going to read these. Write it down, how you're feeling, be curious. Why am I feeling this way? You know, tap into some intervention. How many times have I said the Hail Mary in a single day? I think I'm up to, maybe I got up to 700 one day, or the Hail Mary, full of grace. I just said it over and over again. Plan for your future instead of thinking about the past. The past is over. It's done with. We need to commit to the fact that we want to turn away from food and realize that this is the best. It's much easier to focus on trying to control a voracious appetite than to control the twists and turns of a life you didn't expect, or to feel the emptiness or the terror and helplessness of the bad things that could potentially happen. Oh my God, I cannot tell you how many times I've worked myself into a frenzy worrying about a plane flight that one of my kids was going to take a month from now. What if something happens? What if there's a terrorist? What if the flight? I've what if myself to the kitchen many a time in my life. We need to just accept it and focus it and replace. See, I'm big on replacing addictions. Not all psychiatrists believe you should do that. I'm big on it. You can do whatever you want, because I know you will anyway, believe me. Food is not the problem, it's our solution. We need to look behind it. There's another problem behind it. There was more problems behind it than the food. Much more. Food was never my problem, ever. It was what else was going on. We need to question the assumptions that lead us to stress eating in the first place, and I'm going to stop right there, Bob.